The cloud?
Oh. Okay, so before we hopped in the call, I was looking at the news because I was trying to find some more info about Google and Apple getting together on the AI stuff. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, apparently they're going to team up because Apple doesn't really have an AI department of any kind. I mean, they've got Siri, but Siri's not really AI. And apparently, whatever they do have just
It's
isn't
not
cut.
there.
Yeah, well, that's what I was reading last night, and that's why I was
Let-
hopping.
Let's be honest, Apple's always been good at aesthetics, but not really good at tech.
No, They
Right?
really,
Like all their tech they just stole from other people.
absolutely. They make it look pretty and they make it
They do.
to use, and then they charge twice as much for it.
Yeah. It's the power
Right.
of a cult. I mean, of good customers.
I mean, you realize they make more of their money from music than they do from
Is
like,
that still true? I know that was the cash cow, but I wasn't sure if that's still the case.
no, I don't actually know. I say that. It was true like 3 or 4 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
It's still true because, I mean, I have an iPhone, but I only buy like the old ones that are $50, because you're crazy to go buy a $3,000 phone. It's just insane, especially when you can buy one that's a year old that's $50. It goes from 3,000 to $50 in like a year or two.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Anyway, when I was looking at the news, I saw this article about Facebook users and bizarre AI generated images of Jesus. And actually, some of them are kind of cool, but I was reading the article when we were trying to get in.
I wonder which AI is doing that because it was a straight chat GPT, so not a custom GPT, would not let me generate religious images. Like it was fighting everything. The one we ended up with for the title of the book um, was, I guess, in their estimation, not offensive. It was, just innocuous enough.
Wait,
Um,
offending
I'll
people
show it.
by not offending them. Is that by trying not to offend people?
Say it again.
It sounds like they're offending people by trying not to offend people.
I mean,
They're,
I'm offended by it.
well, I feel a little bit offended by it.
Wait, can you see this
Yeah.
Soulless Intelligence book? So, like that is kneeling in a church, but to be fair, there is no real discernible
Oh, there's no cross.
theological iconography, right? Like, so there's no crosses, there's no,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
true. I never really noticed that before. But yeah, you can't actually say that that's like a Christian church or you can't even.
yeah, you can't define it as anything for sure. Obviously, it implies, and if you just glance at it, then you're thinking, okay, it's just a medieval Gothic church, European, whatever. But yeah, they don't go all the way of showing anything that would guarantee that, oh yeah, that's absolutely.
Huh. Oh, wait.
So
Well,
the
let's see. Does this actually?
Just out of interest, on that headline, outlandish images are garnering hundreds of millions of engagements on the social media platform, leading some users wary of scams. I mean, in case they get mixed up with the real Jesus when he tries to contact
No,
them,
that's what
what is the scam?
what is this scam there? The article is kind of silly, man, because people are absolutely out of their minds. I mean, well, Facebook's requiring images like that to be flagged as AI generated, and I'm real sure that Jesus on an airplane with a flight attendant eating shrimp is probably not a real photo. I mean,
uh,
I don't
I
need,
think
but
I think the scam is people are generating images and trying to sell the image as a product, like not the image, but like whatever the image depicts. Like, oh, I'll make these for you, like an Etsy type thing.
Oh,
And that's the scam. I saw a pretty crude advertisement using AI the other day.
yeah.
Essentially like a blue pill type advertisement, but way more like graphic, like describing this whole scenario. So it was like a young, attractive woman, clearly AI talking. Like it wasn't the woman, and maybe this woman doesn't even exist. Like, it was fully AI generated, just saying about this amazing experience with this guy because he took this supplement. I don't know. And
Huh.
I was like, and the URL for it was like something dot something dot, It was super long.
Very long time.
Um, is that a scam? Do they actually have a product they're selling? I didn't bother to find out, but maybe that's what people are saying. Like it's so easy now to get talent, to get people to get AI to say or promote anything.
Well, if
But
you're buying pills off the internet because of an, then the problem's not really the ad. The problem is maybe the educational system, because you shouldn't be buying pills off the
oh,
internet.
come on, supplements. You don't get some vitamin C off the
I
internet?
do not. I do not. Absolutely not. We have a grocery store up here that actually sells vitamins in the store. It's like a building. It's this place that you walk into. There's other
It
people
seems so
there.
inconvenient.
Sometimes it is. It is. And you have to listen to other people as they talk on their phone and stuff while you're walking around. It's annoying. But they
Yeah,
do
limited options.
right there. I usually
Yeah. Oh,
go in.
I don't know how that's any different than all the scams that have been existing on Facebook and whatever forever, though. Like,
Well, I like how they want these images tagged as AI generated, but did we ever start tagging things that were photoshopped?
right.
I mean,
Does every Instagram picture with a filter say this has a filter?
right.
Because that's not real.
It's
Like,
not
let's be honest, that's some
Have
of
you
them
guys
are
seen this?
legitimately AI with those filters, right? So they are using AI blending technologies or image inpainting or things like that.
it would be easier to just flag the real photos, both of them.
Probably. This has not been edited.
Rob, you were trying to say something? What'd you say?
Yeah, this is kind of timely. Like, have you guys seen the whole scandal, if you want to call it that, in inverted commas, around Princess Kate and this fake photo?
Hold on. I did actually see some headlines on
I, I heard my wife and sister talking about it, but I wasn't really paying attention.
she was sick or
Yeah,
something. Then she photoshopped a picture of her with the kids looking good or something. And
apparently. And then the conspiracy theorists are like, well, she didn't Photoshop it because she's been in a coma for the past 2 months. So the royal family have done this, and this is an outrage.
What?
And why aren't they telling us the truth? And but the
oh,
things that were edited were, it wasn't obvious. Like it, I think there was maybe a hand or some hair on one of the kids' head, and maybe a few stray hairs on her head. Like these were just really, really subtle things which have been going on since the invention of Photoshop, and probably even since the invention of photos to an extent. Everyone changes the lighting on their pictures, or they'll edit it somehow. But this seems to have caused a huge scandal because it's like, oh, we can't believe anything they say. Like, well, duh, it's the royal family. So, but this kind of feeds into this whole narrative at the moment that, like, oh, everything on the internet's fake, and like, how do we know what's real? And I don't know. I know someone quite famous in the US was talking about fake news before AI was a big thing. So it's all the same thing, just packaged up in a different way now, right?
oh, dude,
Well,
is King Chuck sick?
He's apparently quite sick. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I had no idea. We finally get King Chuck, and he's sick. Great, awesome.
Yeah. That's
it's like really hard to find this image. Oh, there it is. So she put the Prince and Princess of Wales have an X account, and she put up a picture of her and her kids, and people are saying it's fake. It was AI generated.
it's
Oh,
not AI generated. They're saying it's been edited, and that for some reason that's caused a huge scandal that she should be putting up pictures that are natural and she shouldn't be trying to make things too perfect.
wait, and her husband's having a
Yeah,
and oh my gosh, man, it's like the all the world has become the sun.
Is this the one we're talking about?
that's the image. Yeah. So this was the image they put up, and then there was this whole thing where there was a kill notice that went around all the press agencies that they need to take this image down because it wasn't accurate and it wasn't representative of what was actually taken. So the things that had changed were like super minimal. Like you couldn't, I can't tell by looking at that some of the things on there aren't as they would have been. But
Like, I just don't get this.
apparently, if
I
you
don't
look
know
at
if I have it on my computer, but like when my kids get their soccer pictures last year, they took a separate picture of each kid and then photoshopped it together
No
for a
way.
team picture, right? Um, my son had a hockey picture and it's got like these effects behind it. Like the kids look like they're all like a college team or something like that, right? And they're like 7 and 8. And it looks pretty awesome actually, but
Real.
it's not real, natural, unedited, whatever. Whether they're using some AI tool or not, I'm not sure, but I would find it hard to believe that any of the pictures my family has taken, like every year in the last 7 or 8 years, don't have some touch up, some editing, some. So I don't get this. Like,
Well, they're all digital. Unless you're actually taking it with film, it's not real, guys. It's just a representation of what was there.
well, that's a fair point.
Even portraits back in
Well,
the day, right? Which king or queen
well,
paid for a
even film
portrait
isn't actually
ugly
real,
or
Chuck.
not
It's still.
powerful?
Hold on. Rob's got a good point about the portraits and the paintings of the back in time. Go on. What were you saying, Rob? It's the same.
It's just that, which king or queen would have paid for a portrait, a painter, commissioned a portrait that made them look fat or not powerful or not to have a big enough codpiece or whatever it is, right? Like that, this has been going on since we've been painting on walls.
It's a human thing. Yeah. Total human thing, man. Huh. Yeah, this isn't a new
Anyway,
problem, guys.
But so what would the argument be on that though? Well, at least a real intelligence edited it.
I think people need to understand that the things they see on the internet are not real. It's not real. It's fake belief. I mean, it's entertainment type stuff. If you want to get actual real news, you can't get it off Facebook. You need to get it from some
Right.
actual news sources. And even then, apparently, you have to be very discerning over what you're getting from the actual news because
Stuff like this is like
it's more
to
like
get conspiratorial. It's like wag the tail stuff. If this is like what people are talking about, whatever's wrong with this picture, I have no idea. But if we're spending all our time on this, I'm like, what happened in the world that we were not supposed to be paying attention to?
right. If
What are
that's
they what are they distracting us from that was happening at the same time that nobody noticed?
uh,
The they, whoever they are.
well, let's see.
the
If
hand.
let's look at these conspiracy theories. If she's in a coma, what's the big deal? I mean, I get it's bad that she's in a coma, but does that really affect the world?
Somebody saw Kate.
Oh,
Now was it an AI generated? Like, how do we know somebody saw Kate? Like,
well, it could be an avatar. Oh,
right. I don't know how to even see the
oh my
picture.
gosh, I saw that. Oh, where is that? There's a video of a guy using an avatar to do a job interview. He's actually got the video of the avatar on the screen, and he's got the guy interviewing, and then he's standing there watching it on his screen as the guy talks to his avatar.
And is the avatar answering?
Yeah, the avatar is answering the questions. There is a little bit of a delay and stuff, but it's kind of neat, man. I mean, I wouldn't have, I mean, because he sounded a little bit stiff, but still, we're that close to being able to have digital avatars fooling people, taking online job interviews and stuff.
I feel like I would hire that guy.
And then, well, have you've seen Devin? I mean,
As a
obviously,
matter of fact, full disclosure, is this the real Chuck or is this the Chuck avatar?
and anyway, and that's what happens when you confuse it. It like pauses out, man. Yeah. No, this one's real, I think. Hmm. I don't know. It's a crazy world anymore, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
it is, I guess. Although, what was the physical version of that? Stunt doubles,
Yeah, stunt doubles. Don't need them.
right? There's always been conspiracies around that, like, is there two presidents or is there a double or
Die and it's just a double in his place. That was the big thing like 4 or 5 months ago, wasn't it?
oh, was it?
Putin's dead. Yeah, Putin's been replaced by a double. He's run by the K.
Oh, I don't know that I read the same news as you, Chuck.
Oh, I think it was like CNN.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I don't read CNN. CNN is not really news. CNN, Fox,
So what
MSN.
questions do you have for us, Rob, today?
Yeah, what you got,
I
man?
mean, I feel like we've made a strong start. We should probably just end. Where
Yeah,
do you go from this?
Yeah.
Well, I've shared that doc with you. I guess probably the easiest place is what do you feel like talking about it if you can open that doc
Yeah, I got it
in the
open.
chat? Yeah.
Oh, I like the first one. I actually wrote up that discussion yesterday.
Are you seeing this, Chuck? Yeah, you're in. Yeah, you guys have at it, and I'll chip in with questions.
So can you formulate that as a question?
Uh,
Which one?
so okay, so a few people recently, notable people. We're talking celebrities. We're talking people that have an influence on the way that news is reported. Have been talking a lot about AI. I'm talking about people like Tucker Carlson, Stephen Bartlett, and Glenn Beck. And from what I understand, you guys don't think they truly understand what AI is, even though they seem to be having an increasing part of the conversation. I don't know if you guys want to jump in on that.
Yeah.
Chuck, do you
Well,
want to start?
we talk about Europe and the laws they passed here last week. So you've got a group of people who absolutely do not understand what the technology is, passing laws about the technology. That's a mistake, guys. That's a problem. The EU made a major mistake right there. They need to pull back. I mean, look, I'm not really in favor of any kind of laws around AI because I believe our existing laws really cover 99% of all use cases here. And we need to focus in on the laws we have and try a little bit of enforcement on that stuff. We don't need to create a whole bunch of new laws. It's the same thing what we were talking about the images a little bit ago on Facebook, you know. You've got those images and they want to tag them as AI. Well, how's that different than an image that was photoshopped? It's not. And we're talking about digital images anyway, guys. We need to, as a society, have at least a little bit of realism. You know, understand that when you're looking at stuff online, it's on Facebook, you can't trust that stuff is actually being real. I mean, yeah, it might be a little bit real, but you have to understand that it's being hyped up. It's sensationalism. It's to titillate. It's not really the world around you. Go walk outside your doors and tell me that what you're seeing on Facebook is the world that's outside your door.
You're
It's
answering the second question.
which one is that? Why AI regulated? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It plays into the same thing. You've got what Glenn Beck. You've got politicians. You've got all these people having an opinion about the technology, but they don't even understand what it is.
I think that's the bigger issue as far as how do you have a discussion about something you don't understand? And
Mhm.
so all of these guys that I'm seeing believe a few core myths. So myth number one is what makes humans unique is our intelligence.
Okay.
Therefore, if something else is more intelligent, then what happens? Right. And so there's this discussion of we don't know, and that's going to be scary, and so on. But they miss a few really key things. Intelligence is not what makes us unique. And the computers are already more intelligent than us. Like this has already happened, right? So like there's almost nothing that you can do that you can't find a computer or a robot or something that can do better.
Mhm.
There are a few things like driving a race car or playing basketball or whatever that they're not there yet. But as far as mental functioning, I mean, there's so little left. So let's just say 98% of what humans can do, computers already are smarter and more intelligent. So it's like, okay, well, we were supposed to be scared about that. Why did that not cause a big issue? It's because they don't have autonomy. So this is the other myth. They believe because the Googlers and these ex-Google guys like Mo Gaudat or whoever's going on the interviews with Stephen Bartlett, or I think Glenn Beck was talking to the Google CEO and Tucker Carlson with Elon Musk, because they all believe that like intelligence means autonomy. They just equate the two. That if I'm smart, I'll be able to make my own decisions, set my own goals, have my own teleology, is the philosophical term, and that's just not true. I mean, Gaudat talks about that in his book Scary Smart. That there's the scenario he lays out, which all the pundits seem to accept is okay. If I program this robot, and that robot's job is to give Chuck coffee every day, the best coffee, and it's always hot and whatever. And Chuck decides he wants to unplug the robot because he doesn't need coffee today. The robot will resist that because it's going to go against its core
Right.
training and its objective function. And it's like, no, it won't. Like, there's no reason that it's going to fight back. This jump from I'm going to be a word processor to I'm going to write my own novel, like that is not a natural progression. What they're actually saying is it's going to come alive. What do we see in life?
Right.
Growth, nutrition, reproduction. Well, to go from, hey, I programmed you to train you on a data set like an LLM to answer question to ChatGPT is going to go lurk around the internet and start having conversations with people because it's lonely. Like that is not a natural progression. Like that is not something that's just going to happen. And so when I see the interviews with Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, Tucker was trying to push back a bit. He said, well, humans are unique. We have creativity and we have, the ability to understand morals. And, it's because of our human soul. And Musk's response was, maybe we do, maybe we don't. I'm looking at this from a scientific perspective. And it's like, from a scientific perspective, we have a soul. What is a soul? It's the thing that makes all of our organs work together, right? Like it's what allows a multicellular organism to function. If I don't have a soul, it's the thing that animates me or a dog or whatever, although the souls are different. The liver, the lungs, the kidneys, the heart, the skin, all these things don't work together, eyes, etc. Like that is what the soul is. So for him to say, hey, we don't know if it exists, is like, well, what is that? Like you can give it a different name if you want.
Right, but it's still there.
But it's still there. You can't deny it. You can't say, well, science doesn't see it. Yeah, it does. Like it's right in front of you. And so that's the challenge is they don't push back on this. Okay, so what if it's intelligent? It's not autonomous. It doesn't have its own goals. It doesn't do any of those things. Or the other side of that becomes, okay, well, if it's going to super intelligence is going to start creating better versions of itself, which is a hallmark of life, right? Reproduction. Again, why would it do that? There's no reason it's going to do that unless you program it to try and do that. If that was possible, let's just assume they were right, that it's just going to become super intelligent and be autonomous and set its own goals and do whatever the heck it wants. Then why the heck do they care about alignment? So alignment is the idea that we can train it to respect human values.
Right.
But it's already a billion times or whatever, they claim it's going to be. I know Gaudet talks about it being a billion times smarter than a human. Like if we have a 150 IQ, it's got a 3000 IQ or something crazy, or it's like, okay, but if that's the case, how in the world are you going to be able to train it to follow your values? It's going to know so much more than you to begin with. It's like an ant trying to train us to follow its values.
Let's talk quick about what AI is. When we're talking about these AIs, really what they are is they're a model, and then that model's output is actually programmatically changed. Okay, so when we're writing code with one of the models, it might spit back something, okay? But we might not want that. So what we do programmatically is we say, throw that away and then give me another answer. It's fine tuning, basically, is what we're doing. We're kind of fine tuning the answers. So the model might spit something else, might spit something out, but we're programmatically changing it. So these are software programs. They don't think. We tell them to think. We're actually creating the little interactions between it. We're making it do these different things, but the models themselves, these can never become alive because they're not. They're. It's so hard to explain this.
Well, it's actually, I don't know that it's that hard. There's three pieces. There's a training algorithm, there's a data set, and there's your objective functions, right?
Right.
So the training algorithm, those are actually public. That's what ChatGPT makes available to us. Those are APIs we can access from Gemini and so on. The data set is the internet, essentially, right? And so the problem is if you teach something with truth is on the internet, you're going to come up with some really weird truths. And it's totally populist, right? Whatever most often, if most people say Jesus is a freak, versus Jesus is a God, like whether it's true or not doesn't matter. It's going to be a vote essentially. So then the last part is the objective function of fine tuning, which is like, okay, what's Gemini's goal? To answer questions without offending anyone. Somebody had to train it to try to not offend it, which means they had to come up with these goals of what is offensive and what's not offensive. And let's try and so now they're tweaking the data set so it only outputs things that go through their filter. But all of that has nothing to do with being alive. All of that has nothing to do with being conscious. There is no algorithm, there is no data set that says all of a sudden you're conscious. And the predictions from the guys like Ray Kurzweil, who everyone defers to, as kind of the guru, is all we are, all you are, all I am is data processing, information processing, data storage, and neural network. As soon as computers match or exceed that of a human, they're going to come alive. He doesn't use that language, but essentially become the singularity once they're significantly smarter than us. But GPT-4 LLMs are already on par in all of those capacities, and nothing's changed. They still don't care if you unplug them. If we went and burned down all the GPT servers, they're not going to cry.
And the only reason,
Right.
the only way that they would is if we program them to. We would have,
And then they're just following their programming.
and it's just following the program. That's right.
Yeah.
That's all it's doing is following the program, doing what we told
And
it
it's
to do.
with that, I got to be a little careful. They're following either their training data or their core objectives. They're not hard programmed, so there's nuance there that it's not the same as what we've done historically. So I mean, AI is amazing. It does because it can learn on its own, but learning on its own is not the same thing as setting its own goals, right? And having its own desires and seeking out the transcendentals of love, truth, beauty, goodness.
Models, but most of these generative models don't learn on every chat. You have to actually train those models for
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So it's not like you do something that learns from it. It has to be trained on what it just did, which people don't think about when they're talking about AI coming alive. Those chats that you're having, it's not part of its long-term memory yet. It will be.
Well, yeah, and there's a big difference if I'm using Gemini Enterprise 1.5 with 1 million tokens. The short-term memory is pretty big,
Yeah.
right? So then when you say, well, I'm not training, well, you are for quite a lot of words, like a novel's worth of information or more. So it's technically still short-term memory, but the short-term just got bigger.
So these guys that we're talking about here, Tucker Carlson, Stephen Bartlett, they have a platform, they have a voice, they're well known, they're asking questions, whether they're interested genuinely in this space or whether it's just to amplify their reach and get into different crowds, etc. But if they are genuinely interested in this subject, like what should they be reading? Where should they be getting their information from? Because at the moment it seems like everyone's asking the same questions, but what you are telling me, Brian, is that they're missing the point.
I would start with philosophy. I would start understanding the human condition first. Perhaps start with like the Old Testament and then move into the New Testament. And once they've got some basic fundamentals of human morality and ethics and understanding the spirit of life, then we can start talking about computer systems and why they won't have that kind of thing. We can.
Funny, I gave a very similar answer to a former congressman I was talking to, trying to get him to understand AI. I was like, I would start with the Thomistic Institute, which is basically teaches you philosophy, Thomas Aquinas, what's a human, what do we desire, what makes us unique, the 3 levels of the soul, all these types of things. Because until you understand what a human is, you can't understand what AI is and why it's different. With Stephen Bartlett, I think his best interview was Mustafa Suleyman. He has a book, The Coming Wave, which it's not perfect, but he at least pushed back against the transhumanists. So a transhumanist is somebody that believes you, Rob, can be downloaded into a computer and live forever because you are not a soul, you're not a composite being, you are just patterns of information. And we could take those patterns of information and put them in a non-biological substrate, a silicon substrate, a machine, and then you live forever. And this is obviously absurd for several reasons. And even Jeff Hawkins, who's an atheist, pointed this out in his book, 1,000 Brains, that, okay, wait a sec, at best, all that would do is copy, right? It's like just copying the hard drive. It's not actually taking the original and moving it over here. There's something else. So that is, and Mustafa pointed this out to Bartlett, but the challenge was, I don't believe Mustafa Suleyman had the philosophical background or even the scientific background to say, this is why I don't believe the transhumanists are right. He said they're crazy. He says they're nuts. They're not, there's no way that's going to be. And let's throw, Musk, Gates, Kurzweil, Altman, all these guys are in the transhumanist camp. So he says, yeah, they're totally nuts. And Stephen Bartlett was like, why? Why do you say that? Why is that so hard to believe? And he was just like, well, there's more to humans. And he couldn't articulate it beyond that. And so that's the frustrating part because these guys are clearly understand AI, but they don't understand humans. And when you don't understand what makes a human unique, you can't have the argument because you're stuck in this AI world.
Maybe they're big.
I'm interested.
Oh, I was going to say it's not so much about being alive, but the fact that it fools them into thinking it's alive. Because I can see somebody like Tucker Carlson sitting down with ChatGPT 4 and having his mind blown and thinking that it's alive. I mean, there's a Google engineer that actually thought this stuff was alive because of the conversation coming back.
Brad Lemoyne.
But what it is it's a very convincing magic trick. Okay. It's just tech, man. It's just a magic trick. It's the illusion of life. It's the illusion of a conversation. It's like when you're watching a movie, it's just the illusion of what's happening on the screen. What's happening on the screen isn't actually what's happening right at that moment. You're watching it on a screen. It's fake. It's the same thing with the Chat GPT. It's fake. It's not a real thing talking to you. It's a very convincing illusion.
Well, to be clear, I don't know that any of them currently claim it's alive. I think they're all saying eventually it will be. And my contention would be no, it will not be.
Mm.
Right? Like life is a super complicated thing. There's 126 different definitions of life according to On Life's Edge by Carl Zimmer. Like we can't even agree what that looks like, in a scientific or formal fashion.
So
And certainly no one has taken non-life and turned it into life. So their claim that it will eventually be alive like a human is way premature at the very least, because we don't have a method to reverse engineer that. And that's all AI is. It's all reverse engineering human brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm interested in that. You mentioned about the sources that they need to go to, and a lot of them were sort of philosophy based, but most of them were rooted in religion, and that religion, I think I'm right in saying, is Christianity. Is that serving everyone? Like, is that really the place that people should be looking? And why just that one religion? Why should they not be looking at Buddhism or Islam? Or am I wrong? Like, it seems that they're coming from one place. I'm just interested in getting the answer to that.
Rob, I personally believe that you should open your mind to anything and read what you can. Learn a little bit about Buddhism. I mean, I grew up across the street from a family of Buddhists, and I'll tell you, it's a great thing, man. There's some terrific things coming out of Buddhism there. Hindu too. Hinduism. I mean, the world is vast, all right? And I'm not saying everybody needs to read the Old Testament and the New Testament. I'm just saying.
You did say that, actually.
No, you should. I'm saying the AIs or the Tucker Carlsons, they should read it if they want to understand it. If they want to understand it and understand the human condition, you don't have
Has
to.
AI not read it?
But you definitely have to open your mind to the world around you. You can't say that you're a Christian in this world and then deny that there are Buddhists. You have to be able to look at the Buddhists and understand what are they talking about. You can't close your mind to that. I mean, Christ was open-minded, right? He was about bringing people into the flock. You can't close your mind to those people just because they believe something different. In fact, maybe there's something to what they're saying as well.
I
think this is a long
I agree with
it.
It is, but I'm just interested if we can get to the root of that. Maybe we can finish this. But I'm just interested why, and this will probably make a great short, but why Christianity seems to be the starting point for you guys. Is it just because that's what you've been taught and brought up with, or do you think that that is the best place for people to go, to get the full picture?
There's only one reason
for these
to believe
guys
something.
particularly.
Whatever that thing is, there's one reason to believe it, because it's true. And the reality is, and we go through this in our book, it's some length, certainly not at the level of Thomas Aquinas or someone like that. The best explanation of all that we see in reality is rooted in Christian principles. And so when the transhumanists, and the bigger problem, Rob, is the Buddhists, the Muslims, the Christians, so on, are not even being discussed in the AI. So 85% of the world is not even in the discussion. The discussion is like 98% led by transhumanists, but 100% by materialists. No one is considering the uniqueness of the human with the soul. So even though we're talking about Christianity, and that's, a third of the planet or something like that, or, a fifth of the planet, the reality is 85% of the planet would agree on the basic theistic principles and just the core idea that humans are unique because of our soul. When you get into Buddhism, they're a little bit different, in sort of how they envision the afterlife and so on. But, now we're nitpicking. The reality is these people that are leading the discussion might represent, because they're pure atheists, 3 or 4% of the planet. And the rest of the planet, let's just call us all theists, let's bundle us together for the moment, aren't even part of the discussion. And that's the bigger problem. Now, why Christianity, that we probably need to do a separate video. But if you're at all open-minded, if you're at all not bigoted, and if you're at all wanting to not offend people, you need to have people that are the opposite of Sam Altman and the opposite of Elon Musk and so on, presenting their views in discussion. And that's all we're trying to do. We just want a seat at the table to have these discussions. And then if they say, okay, well, why Christianity? Well, great. I appreciate you asking the question. Here's why. We can go into those details. But at the moment, it's just all we do is listen to the transhumanists. And even, I don't know if Tucker Carlson's a believer or Stephen Bartlett or Glenn Beck. I think Glenn Beck is a Mormon or something like that. But even those people, so they're not educated enough to ask the right questions of the AI gurus. So we have this big separation. We have the AI gurus that understand their tech, no doubt about it. They're good at that. Then you have the people that come from different belief systems. Yeah, I think Mo Gaudet might be Muslim, or at least had some background in that. It wasn't real clear. He definitely has a spiritual belief, just from how he talks about his son dying and so on. But he's not really deep in that, obviously, in the philosophy from the interviews I've seen. And so you need somebody that can branch those two together and say, okay, let's have somebody understand the philosophy and then somebody that understands the tech, so we can actually talk together and get somewhere. And that's just literally not happening. And that's our goal. Like, we want to help facilitate those conversations and help the AI people see the theist point. We want to help the theist point see the importance of AI and why they need to be part of the discussion. Does that make sense?
It to me. I feel like at some point you are going to need to invite people onto a show like this, as in have these discussions with somebody and ask the questions that Tucker Carlson, Steve Bartlett, Glenn Beck aren't asking.
Yeah, I
That
think I
to me
probably
seems like the
do a
natural
video
progression for
where
you.
I watch the interview and then like stop here. Okay, this is how Tucker should have responded to Elon Musk. This is how Stephen Bartlett should have responded to Mo Gaudet. This is how. So do a series of those. So at some point we'll do that. But yeah, I gotta get to another meeting now in a few minutes.
Your book stuff or something now, don't you?
Okay, should we call it?
Yeah, I gotta be on a rebranding meeting.
But make as a note, Rob, as one of the questions, like, okay, why Christianity? Because I didn't actually answer that question because it would take too long.
Yeah.
But I do think the way I did answer is more important at the moment. Like, just give us a chance to talk first, and then we can get into why and all the details. So, but I would be ecstatic if Hindus were joining the conversation and Muslims were joining the conversation and Catholics and Protestants. And like, it's not like there's even uniformity against the Christian world, right? Like,
Right.
I, they're just not. None of them are entering the conversation. And I think the biggest part is because they don't understand it. So that's not even the fault of the tech bros. That's the fault of the religious bros who haven't educated themselves enough.
Well, actually, I'm out next week, next Wednesday. So I've marked that as the second question on the doc, but you guys might want to just pick that up and run with it next week.
All right. Greg might be back by then too. He has a lot on that topic probably.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I
When
can
is
walk
Greg
through
back?
that from 1,000 years back to modern times and a bunch of examples and say this belief system predicted this in science, and it's still our best explanation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chuck's kind of smiling, but not sure.
I'm plotting and planning. I'm trying to find ways to become argumentative. I just want the conversation to be animated, you know, to get you fired up and stuff. So they get good clips of you saying stuff forcefully and stuff. So I'm thinking of different ways to bait
You
you.
put on some sort of character next time. Like, you could be the transhumanist. Like, can you get a wig and look like Ray Kurzweil? And then like, and then you could just be whoever you're most familiar with. If you've never read Ray Kurzweil's book, I don't know if that would help, but whoever it is, you can be that person. All right, I gotta run. Thanks, guys.
I've got
All right, man.
Brian, there's nothing we need to talk about for the book, right?
Well, if we do, we have to make it later.
Yeah. All right, cool. Okay.